Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Sara Estelle Turner, and I'm very, very happy to be here with Saskia Marjoram of Saskia's Essences today as part of the International Essence Awareness Week, run by the British Flower and Vibrational Essence Association. Welcome, Saskia.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm very happy to be talking to you in this way, and our aim is to really just spread the word of essences far and wide for as many people as possible to get to know how amazing they are, basically, and how they can really shift our lives. So we're here. What we decided would be a really great thing to talk about is how essences can keep us grounded during chaotic times, during kind of life on planet Earth right now, when everything seems to be up in the air. And how do we keep going? How do we stay positive? How do we, get through the day? How do we help other people get through the day? And how do we get on with what we're here to do with all of that stuff going on? So something that I'd love to ask you, Saskia, which wasn't part of our little plan before we started recording here. How did you start with essences?
I started like lots of people because we needed them in our family, and it was I was in my late 30s. My kids were, being 8, 10-year-olds. My relationship wasn't desperately good, and I came across Ian White's range, the bushflower essences. Someone said, "Why don't you try them?" I was hanging out with a friend of mine who was a homeopath, and not overnight, but the results were pretty miraculous, I must say. And I was hooked. I'd always worked with flowers. I was a gardener, a florist, and knew the flowers on a practical level. But also very I'm a very grounded person in general, and they were great. They were great, but they were made from Australian plants, which I didn't have any emotional attachment to. I didn't know what the plants were like. I didn't know where they grew, what they smelled like. And being a practical person, reading the book, the Bushflower Essence, the Ian book he'd written, he explained how to make your own essence. So I was like, well, it doesn't look that difficult. I can make jam, it's no harder than that. And so we gave it a go. In fact, I might talk later about the essence that we made first, because it's a really good one for getting things going and moving and procrastination, and getting people fired up to get on with what they have to do. So that was the first essence we made, and then we were hooked, basically. Like I know lots of other essence producers are. Once you get into that realm of the plant world and the energetics of plants, it's like everywhere you look, it's like, oh, I wonder what that does, or what does that, what does the oak tree do? How does that feel? And so that was about 15 years ago now.
Wow, I didn't know that about you. I knew you were a gardener, but I didn't, that makes complete sense because you knew the plants of England, of this land. Yeah. And of course, you found the Australian essences still worked,
still
did
really powerful essences.
Yeah. But you were called to make your own, which is really cool. So just out of curiosity, I find that a lot of people that come on the diploma in flower essences that I run, one of the first things some of them say is, I'm not going to make any essences, I don't want a range of my own. And when we hear that, we kind of think, ooh. I wonder if they realise that they've just, it's usually a sign that they are going to make essences. So was it part of your plan to have a range of essences?
No, it wasn't. But it's that thing, once you've got them, you've got to share them out, haven't you? And the only way you can share them out, besides just being in your, your friends and family, is to have a range, really.
Yeah.
And the flowers, begged me to, I would say.
Yes.
It wasn't a plan. It's been for years. It was just aside from doing my other thing.
Yeah. So you
have
a range.
I want to make a range of flower essences. I'm going to go and do it. It's the first. The others came, and then it was like, oh well, now we've got these 10. What are we going to do with them? But then you get hooked into this, don't you? Then you get hooked into the business thing of getting them out there. But
people want them, and then that's it. Yeah. So your range is Saskia's Essences, which is a very beautiful name for your essences. You know, and I mean that totally. Actually, I was thinking about it before we started talking. I thought, you know, we spent ages agonizing over the name of our range, and it's just like Saskia's Essences. It's such a cool name.
Well, I had a company, Saskia's Flowers, before that, because I was a florist, and I'm always do this, you know, straightforward, keep it simple, no agonizing. I remember someone saying actually that you shouldn't have to make any decisions. If it's a decision, it's usually a no. You know, it's like, this shouldn't be a long, should it, shouldn't it be this, should it be that, should it be the other. It's like, well, that's what it is. You know, it comes to you, I guess, when you have to make a decision. Things you know, like, you know, leaving a relationship or anything, you kind of and and then one day it's just like, no, I got to go. And I think it's like it a lot of the time. Yeah.
So I know one of the things that we did want to kind of like talk about, I mean, using essences in chaotic times is a big subject, but we did want to talk a little bit about the head and the heart, because one of the things, probably the key thing an essence does if you take essences over a period of time, is that it takes us out of the head space into the heart space, doesn't it? And that's when life changes.
Yeah. Well, like I was just saying, you know, it's that thing, isn't it? Just take your head out of the equation and just see what comes. Yeah. Yeah. And more, I think we are, you know, as you said, in these times, you know, we get pulled and pushed a lot, but it's if you can get back to your heart. And of course, there are essences that would help you do that as well.
So
maybe that comes from that thing of, you know, are you grounded or are you centered, and the differences between the two, and maybe one's, you know, the connection to the earth and one's connection to the heart, the center. I don't know about that.
Yes, we were talking about that, weren't we? The difference between grounded and centered. And you share again what your definitions, because I thought they were really good.
Grounded is obviously the connection with the earth, isn't it? And how we, you know, it's the base chakra, that connection to your base chakra. And maybe being centered is to do with your being in your heart space and knowing where your heart wants to take you. Once you've got that center and the groundedness of both at once, then you're flying. Maybe that's you're able to fly. I was thinking about that earlier when you suggested the topic of essences to help you ground, and how lots of the very grounded essences have also got those fluffy seed heads, like clematis essence, which is a very grounding essence. If you're grounded, then you can send your seeds off into the and same with dandelion as well. I would say it's a very like grounding essence, but also got that floating off.
We've got a lot of clematis in our garden here, and I'd never seen the wild clematis before. It just appears.
Really?
Kind of drapes itself over the oak tree, you know, and it's like, where did you come from?
Have you ever tried to dig it out?
Yeah.
Getting rid of it is impossible. They're so solidly joined to the ground.
Yeah.
Classic, for me, it's a classic grounding essence.
Yeah.
Bringing those daydreaming, you know, people back to earth.
Absolutely.
And why bark? Put it in his batch bark, whichever. Put it in his rescue remedy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grounding.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do was to share some essences that that are useful for grounding, and we can talk around the areas as we do them. So you've mentioned the first one, the batch clematis. And you had some others as well. We spoke about the you know, if you think about nature and being rooted and solid and not getting blown away or taken off course, the trees come forward.
All the trees really. Obviously, some are more solidly rooted than others, but they all have their different aspects. And how long, you know, how much wiser are they than, you know, all the little blips of the political human. Our little bits that go on in day-to-day life. It's like they've got that overview, haven't they, all the time? The trees, you know, how many million years later they've been, longer than us, they've been here. They've kind of seen it all, really.
They have, literally, especially if you think of some of the big oak trees, they literally have. seen so much. So would you like to talk about a little bit about some of the trees that you feel that want to be mentioned this evening?
That you just said the one that I would say is the most grounding, I would say, of the tree essences, is the oak tree, the one that we know in the northern hemisphere anyway.
My favourite essence of all time.
You could go to the more ancients, the baobab and the ginkgo maybe. I don't know the energetics of those desperately well, but they've been here a really long time, haven't they? I'm sure I've got lots of wisdom to teach. But the oak tree for me is that, knowing that, there's no rush, don't get caught up in the day to day, everyone's panicking and the speedy rushing, the social media thing that, whatever, it's, slow and steady wins the race, that kind of classic saying of just take it slow and rest when you need to, and don't overdo it, and just keep going. For me, the oaks, and also the chestnuts, the white chestnut and red chestnut, that not getting caught up in your head stuff of stopping that worrying happening. They're classic ones in these times, I think, around keeping us not caught up in it. And willow too, I would say, is a very, very good one for not, for just letting the river flow past us and bending with it as it goes. Anything that's pushing us off course, just kind of give to it a little bit. I think willow's a very useful essence. Not clinging onto our little bitternesses and our everydaynesses. Just let it all go past.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the amazing things about essences is that, yes, we can use repertories and all those kinds of things. They're amazing. I use repertories myself, but the best way to know a tree or a flower is literally, and I'm just listening to you, picturing a willow tree, of which we have quite a few here. We just need to look at their shape, don't we?
Yeah.
And observe how they live on this planet, and it shows us very much how they can help us.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of my main, when I'm teaching about flower essences, it's getting the people out in nature and seeing, just experiencing the flowers. As you say, you can read about them as much as you want, but if you don't actually, like me with the Australian ones, if you can't actually touch them and smell them and see how they're growing and whether they're brittle or, it's quite hard to get to know a plant. I mean, obviously, if we, like me, I live in the countryside. It's very easy to go and get in touch with those plants. And that's why we've got essences, isn't it? Because we've got them in their little bottles, and if we can't go and see the oak tree, we can at least take its essence into ourselves. Get it in that way.
Yeah.
And if you do both, it's even better, I think.
Absolutely, it is. Yes, it was certainly how I kind of started off. I think most of us, well, I did anyway. Mrs. Repertory for quite a few years, and then when I went into my more professional training, I started actually connecting with nature, and that it is actually, that's when it changed.
And that's when you become most grounded as well. I mean, talking about being grounded, even if you haven't got the essences and you haven't got the trees, it's just being with you, like we said, the International Awareness Week of like barefoot in nature. I think that was a couple of days ago, wasn't it, or yesterday? It was the Barefoot in Nature Challenge, and it was that, if you can get out in nature with your feet on the ground, that you've got half a chance of being grounded, especially when you're out of sorts or unbalanced or whatever. It's like, that's the first thing.
For me, it's very much about, cohabitating on this earth alongside nature,
well, we are nature, aren't we? So,
we are nature. Yeah.
I think we often forget that, we've got our protection, haven't we, that helps us, not have to interact with it too much, the rain or the mud or the, the negative aspects, or what we see the negative aspects. But as soon as we feel that connection to nature, that we are nature and that we've got our gifts to give it as well, and that it's not all about taking, we can give to it as well, I think is a very crucial thing to keep in mind when.
So maybe that kind of leads us on to talk a little bit about something that I'm passionate about, and I hadn't necessarily connected in with our talk tonight, but of course now that we started talking before we started recording about doing what we're here to do, our life purpose, our mission on this planet, and I love just love putting those things to do it, because if we get too scattered, too overwhelmed, if we don't make decisions, if we procrastinate, if we daydream, you know, all of those things, then we don't get to do we, what we're here to do.
And we hopefully, as we get older, we know what it is we're here to do, or we get a sense and a feeling, or we're just moving forwards and finding what it is. Yeah, once we do know what it is we're here to do, it's vital we get on and do it. I think, especially, you know, time feels like it's speeding up quite quickly, and we need to be getting on with it.
We do. So for anybody listening or watching that really resonates with that, do you have any essence suggestions?
Like I said, the first essence we made was the classic procrastinator's essence, and it's still our bestseller, and the one that I recommend so much, which is known as Nan's Polyanthus. And it was a little polyanthus, pink and yellow polyanthus, in a plastic pot. In fact, it had been lived and grown in a full plastic pot, but anyway, it has this massive energy for getting springtime energy, of getting fired up and getting things moving, and there's absolutely no resisting it, whether it's the accounts, whether it's you know, like whatever it is you have to go and do in life. It's a real push forward. And with that, we were talking about blackberry as well earlier, weren't we, before we started recording, about how fabulous that is for any movement and change, and feeling grounded at the same time when you need to grow and move forward, to still feel that your initial roots in the ground, the way blackberries grow in that, spreading themselves, and each time they touch the ground, rooting again until there's a massive spread of blackberries. And remembering that lesson by taking blackberry essence, I think, is a very strong one in these times.
Mm-hmm.
Getting your message out there, of helping those around you to be able to, you know, be constantly being grounded, is a very useful essence. Yarrow, of course, anyone who's vaguely sensitive to other people's energies, I'm sure lots of the essence people out there know yarrow from whoever's range makes it. Well, quite a lot of different ranges make yarrow essence, because it's so good at giving you that protective space to do your own thing, rather than taking on everyone else's ideas and energies. Similar to walnut, it has that protective quality. What else? What were the other ones? I did write some down. Weld. I wanted to talk about weld essence. Now, I was thinking about these times at the moment and being grounded. It is also a grounded essence. It's made from not everyone might know the plant. It grows in acid soil. It's a biennial, and it's a dyer's plant. And from a distance, it's really tall and fiery. But when you get up close, it's just got these tiny, like yellowy, greeny flowers. And what it's very good at doing is helping us be able to stand back from a situation and not get caught up in the dramas, the everyday little, you know, niggles and that, you know, arguments and whatever. To be able to stand back and go, is this important? Do I need to get sucked into this? You know, do I need to get angry about it? And be able to be in your own fire and amongst that, to move forward. Anger can be a very useful emotion, of course. It just depends how you express it. But that fired upness, I find weld, is a very good essence to take at the moment.
So how do you spell that?
W-E-L-D.
Okay, so literally W-E-L-D, right? Okay.
Resida luteola, if anyone wants to look up the Latin. If people in other countries might, I always like putting the Latin alongside, because people in different countries call different, you know, the same plant by different plants by the same name.
Sure.
The Latin's always useful. So Resida luteola.
Okay.
Highest plant. Really nice essence for being able to just back off and not get caught in everyone else's drama and the everydayness.
And that's one of your essences.
Yeah, I really like that.
Cool.
And dandelion, I think we need to talk about that. Is the most crucial, I think, at the moment for being grounded and shining our true light in the world. That fabulous taproot that goes down and is really connected to the ground, and just being able to spread your seeds out when you've flowered. You know, just that real Leo sunshiny energy of just getting it fired up and doing it your own way, you know, that unique. So there's some of the essences I really think are good And we were talking earlier as well, weren't we, about it's not necessarily just the flower essences that are good for keeping us grounded, but lots of the rocks, as Anne Callahan calls them, the crystals.
Certainly, we find on the diploma, and I only mention that because it just gives me an overview of quite a few people expressing it, because flower essences, expand our consciousness and can really get us in touch with aspects of ourselves and clear emotions that we hadn't realized, were quite so persistent. Whereas for some people, it's really important to start to anchor those energies, and we can do it with trees. And I think that's the lovely thing about working with multiple ranges of essences, which the British Flower Vibrational Essence Association obviously is the overlighting umbrella for that, is that we're all different. And so we have to kind of like feel into it. But the essences made from crystals, or rocks as Anne calls them, are definitely very useful. And I'm just holding up here a set of essences by the Indigo Essences called the Survival Series, which sit just behind me here. So say no more about that possibly, but they're a really cool set made for these times. So essences that can really help you. I find, I don't know if this is something that you find, Saskia, but when you work with nature, you can become quite expanded. And the last essence weekend we did for the diploma, it was an amazing weekend, but we spent a lot of time outside, and we got a lot of energy, just cleared a lot of stuff, got really clear together. And then I came home, switched the computer on, and tried to run a business meeting. Well, I did run a business meeting, but I kind of struggled because I wasn't, the other side of my brain wasn't, I wasn't in balance. So the following evening, when I came to do the same thing, I took one of these survival series. Completely different experience. One drop of essence. Does that happen for you too?
I mean, it's there's always those situations on there you go out and you get whacked by someone else's energy, or as you say, you go into a situation where you can, like we did at the conference last year. I remember how fabulous that was, and how difficult it was to come back into, to even just driving on the motorway, but to then come back to your family situation and go, oh God, where am I? When you spend time with people who are, have the similar, just even a similar view to you about whatever, being with family, how that can, as you say, can take you out to a different, not necessarily a different dimension, but into a different space, and then coming back into everyday reality, whatever that means to different people, can be really hard. And again, that's when the crucial time for being grounded. If we do need to be here and do our work, especially as people spread message, I think is crucial for us, especially to be here on the, in the everyday reality, telling everyone how amazing they are, and being able to hand them out to people who are having a really hard time. The young people especially are finding it really hard at the moment. Lots of people are coming to me with lots of anxiety and finding it really hard. The planet. And of course, the social media and the news and the TVs and all that other stuff that we get bombarded with takes us into that, a different reality.
It's very
really hard to take on board, so we have to be solid and grounded just to help those people as well.
We have to be very discerning, don't we? Very, very discerning. So we talked a little bit about staying connected to our life purpose. We've talked about being practical and getting on. Maybe we have talked about this, but maybe we can just touch on it. And I think it's actually what you were just talking about, is that so many people, and all of us, but for some people in particular, are really struggling staying positive right now. They just don't know, lives are, they just don't know what the future holds, and we don't feel in control. So what do you have any wisdom from nature for that situation?
When you were talking about that, I was imagining the willow essences, and the willow and all the river essences, really. The bark, rock water, we make a Rio Clarillo, it's called a river essence, and I know lots of other ranges have Alaskan have river essences, don't they? But that being able to just to, in a way, sometimes that not being grounded and just going with it and seeing what happens and letting go of any expectations of what's going to happen next. And I think there's that balance of being flexible but grounded at the same time, not having our dogmatic view of how we want it to be and how it's going to be, and because it never is like that, we know that from experience. But sometimes I think when you hold on tight, it can be a lot more painful. The changes that are going to, changes are always happening, aren't they? But I think we've got a lot of changes coming ahead that we're going to have to deal with in quite a flexible way. So I think the any plants growing by water, impatiens, water violet. I don't know the bark range so well, but that was one that came to me just then. That's any of those watery plants. The letting go and seeing where we go, and not following necessarily the path that seems to be set out in front of us. So that balance of having following our mission and knowing what we're here for and going ahead and doing it, but then also having that flexibility in amongst it to go where suddenly the road opens up in front of us. We've no idea where we're headed, really.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's the faith and trust that's needed right now. And as you touched on before, Saskia, a while back, about the trees that are, the consciousness of the big old trees, they've been here for hundreds of years. They've survived change. So much has changed, and they're still here. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting times.
It are interesting times.
I was trying to remember. I think it's the Fox Mountain. What's the Fox Mountain lady called?
Catherine.
Yes, Catherine. I think she made an essence that was called Interesting Times. I still might have the bottle somewhere, but it's always a good one.
Yeah, she's got some good combinations. Okay, well, I knew this was going to be a big subject, and you can't really do it in half an hour, but I really hope that anybody that watches or listens to this will find some solace, find some clarity, and maybe when you walk out in nature tomorrow, in whichever way that you do, you might look at nature a little bit differently and how you can be supported. And if you do have access to the batch essences, most of the health shops will have them. Go explore. And
don't forget they're there. I think that's even as an essence producer, it's one of those things that you can be in a state and you can forget that you've got that help there. It's some of us I know are very good at taking our essences, but I'm not always, I must say. And sometimes I go, oh yeah, of course I've got that help, and I think that was quite a good message for all of us, really. It's like, don't forget your essences, because they make life so much easier.
They do. They
bring so much support to us, it's fabulous.
So for anybody that would love to know a little bit about more your range, how can you point us to your website, Saskia?
www.saskiasfloweressences.com. My website.
And for anybody who might live near you, you have a little flower essence shop now, don't you?
I do have a little flower essence shop. It's really lovely and really nice. I live in Wincanton in East Somerset, and in the local town there, which is a very kind of ordinary, welcoming town. Various different sorts of people. But no, I've opened a little shop after working at home for ages, and now people can drop in and they can come for consultations and they can buy our essences, and I send off my mail order from there. It's just a little haven in amongst the whole food shop and the fruit and veg shop.
When I saw the photos, I thought, wow, that looks so amazing. And
I've got my stall there as well, which I'll be talking about at the conference next year, about the essences I've been making using my alembic still. So that'll be, so I've got my still set up. So it's a great little shop. Very nice to have set that up.
Yeah, and how amazing to be one of the first essence shops. It's something I think anybody that's anybody in the essence world, we've all got parked out somewhere a little dream of having our own shop, and you've done it. So well done.
Again, it wasn't one of those decisions, it was just one of those things that just happened, and suddenly I turned around and went, oh yeah, I've got a little shop. There's necessary decisions that had to be dreamt about or thought about before. Just that had to happen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for you know, being a guest on International Essence Awareness Week. I've really enjoyed exploring this with you, and as always, we always talk about or teach what we need to learn. So yeah, so it's all good. Thank you very, very much, Saskia.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.